which I call the how-to series. As you may know, I do a daily tip, which is just a very short piece of information on an important topic. My how-to series is something a little longer. I go in a few minutes to a larger topic to hopefully give you some real substantive advice. And then last, I do my monthly webinars, which I go for 50, 60 minutes into something in depth. So today's topic on my how-to series is how to know if you need a new lawyer. And I say this reluctantly, even if you're listening to this and you're my client and some of these apply, unfortunately, then I would still suggest that you need a new lawyer. Hopefully they don't, and if so, you'd let me know. But turning to the substance of this. And the reason I decided on this topic was I say to a lot of my clients in consultations that you don't know if you have a bad lawyer often until it's too late. So you need to look for some of the warning signs that exist over the course of your relationship. And I'm going to name about 5 of them with some subtopics. And if you see them in your relationship, it is something you might want to question. I'm not telling you jump ship and go run, and don't go to your lawyer and say, Brad Micklin said you're not a good attorney for me. I'm not saying that. But the areas of law that I handle, being divorce and family law for men's and fathers' rights, is a very difficult, challenging area. It's not like some other areas of litigation. I don't mean to belittle them, and I'm not, but civil litigation, landlord-tenant, personal injury, you don't often have a lot of contact with your attorney, and the outcome of them doesn't necessarily always have to be a life-changing event, where the end of our cases quite often are. So let me just jump into it and start going through the list of some of the things that I feel, at least when I see problems with client relationships or people come to me and complain about other attorneys. These are the things I commonly see. First is simply not getting along. Personalities conflict. Not every lawyer is the most pleasant person to deal with. I say to a lot of my clients that we aren't the way that we are because we're lawyers. We're lawyers because of the way that we are, which means we pick a profession that we have to be right, and we're going to be fighting with people all the time. So that takes an interesting, unique personality in many cases, and a lot of us are just very difficult to deal with. That should be the first warning sign, because as I said at the introduction, what we do can be life-changing. We're dealing with your money, we're dealing with your children, we're dealing with your future, we're dealing with your occupation. Your lives are often in our hands, and if you're not getting along with one another, your judgment may be clouded, you might not be paying attention, you might often also rush something to resolution because of the stress and anxiety you have just dealing with your attorney, let alone the stress and anxiety you have dealing with your case. So the first thing you will look for is personality conflicts and interpersonal relationship issues. Second complaint I hear mostly from clients coming to see me or looking to switch attorneys is the attorney puts other concerns before the client or the client's case. For instance, you'll hear things like an attorney say, well, let's not do that because I'm worried about what the judge might think, or they're worried about how the client may look. You might look unreasonable, they're going to say, or you might look like you're the difficult one. They might even be concerned what the other attorney or other party is going to think or do. And now, I do have to say, obviously, we have obligations as attorneys, ethical obligations, to be truthful to the court, to be polite and respectful to other parties. But that doesn't mean that those concerns should come before yours. And if they are, and you're hearing these things like, well, I don't want to do that because of what the judge thinks, or I'm worried that you're going to look unreasonable, you're starting to have a conflict between what you want to achieve and what the lawyer may think is important to achieve. And that's, again, a very dangerous warning sign. So that would be the second thing that I want to look for. Third is when they're fighting against what you want. It's sort of a shade of gray of what I just mentioned when they're more concerned with other things. But now when you're coming to your attorney and you're saying you want to do A, B, and C, and they're refusing or resisting to do it, that's a problem. Now, obviously, we have an ethical responsibility, like I said, to be truthful, but we also have an adversary or ethical responsibility to be zealous advocates. And if they're fighting against your position and there is no real basis for it, you have a problem. So if you're in this circumstance, you should ask, what is the reason that you're being so opposed? Is it that the law doesn't support it? Is it that it's not ethical? Is there some personal or moral reason that your position is being resisted? If it's simply because the attorney doesn't think it's a position that should be advanced, doesn't mean that that's right for your case. We are not entitled to substitute our judgment for yours, unless, again, there's a legal or ethical restraint, and they'll tell you that. Next is, again, going along as to we get more serious, is when they're actually refusing to argue your point, to expand the law, to argue something contrary to the law, or even push an argument. Just because the law says that something can't be done or something must be done doesn't mean you can't argue that the law is incorrect, that it's outdated, that it doesn't apply to your case, or even a logical extension of it. The law is a living, breathing document. It changes in time. There's countless examples of the way we used to think about certain things and certain people in our history, and the way we look at issues and legal points now. They change. So if you have a good faith belief in your position, then your attorney should be willing to argue it for you. There's nothing that prohibits extending the law, nothing to argue that your case doesn't apply. Sometimes the judges are just wrong. We have an appellate division. We have several levels to our appellate division, and that's because quite often judges are wrong, make the wrong decision, use the wrong facts, apply the wrong law. So if your attorney is refusing to argue your case beyond the constraint of the law, then you have another problem, because there's nothing wrong with expanding it. Last would be if they're just simply too busy. Now, every lawyer is busy to some extent. It's a volume business, it's like anything else, but again, we have ethical and legal responsibilities to our clients. The way that you can tell if your attorney is too busy would be how quickly they're getting back to you. My opinion, if you don't get a return phone call or a response to an email within 24 hours, your attorney's too busy. Again, the areas we deal with, way too important to sit for that long. If you're not getting copies of information, let's say your spouse is mentioning information that they're sending to your attorney and you're not seeing it, or the court's sending out a notice and they're just telling you to appear, you're not getting a copy of the actual notice, that may mean the attorney's too busy and doesn't forward all the correspondence. Now, technically, they're not required to. They're only supposed to send you what would be important for you to know. But in my opinion, nowadays, everything should be forwarded. Every single piece of paper that comes in, every email that they get, every notice from the court, it's far too easy to scan and send by email. Everything is almost done by email, even faxes. So there's no reason you're not getting everything at the moment that it comes in. My clients actually get mail before I even see it. It comes in, it's automatically sent to them, and then it comes to my desk. There's never any kind of picking and choosing what gets sent to the client, and there really shouldn't be. Next, if they're missing filing deadlines, and this would probably be one of the most egregious examples of when you have the wrong attorney and that person is just too busy. If there was a filing deadline for a motion and they're calling to get an adjournment the day before, there was a hearing date and they tell you last minute that they can't make it, or they send somebody that you didn't know was going to appear, this could mean that they're too busy, and to the point that they're actually missing dates that would prejudice your case, and that's serious. Often that can't be undone, especially if it's the lawyer's fault. And last, not to dissuade you from using a general practice attorney, but I find general practice attorneys are much busier than people who concentrate in areas. The reason is they have more to do, they have more to keep up with. I commend them. I can never do it. I concentrated my practice decades ago because I didn't want to have to keep up on all the law that develops in all the areas. All power to them if they can do that, but if you have a general practice attorney, you want to definitely make sure that he or she keeps up on their work, keeps up on their calendar, and is very responsive to you. So this information, I hope, helps you if you're in a troubled attorney relationship and you're not sure. Again, even if it's with me or my firm, you should really look closely at it. The outcome can be egregious and irreversible. So I do stress that you take your chances, that you look at it, and you decide if it's not right for you, then you should be looking to move on. I hope this information helps you. If it does, please give it a like and share it so that other people get to see it. You can subscribe and ask for notifications so you'll get prompted whenever I'm going online. I will be on tomorrow, probably at 4 o'clock. I'll be posting it later today. It changed around how I do that. If there's something that you want to see, anybody here, anybody there, message me, let me know, and I'll work it into the program for tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off and wish you all a good day.